Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord, specifically the Realm of Thrones Total Conversion mod that brings the game into the world of Game of Thrones. And today we're going to be continuing our armor analysis series, or armor looking at series, I guess, with the Valyrian or Targaryen armor. So this stuff will be the stuff that has to do with two factions in this game, both those of Daenerys Targaryen and Aegon Targaryen. So there are two Valyrian style factions in this mod, and they start off in this region around here. So for Aegon's, we have, so here is Old Valyria. We have his kind of starting off in the Illyria, Mantaris, Tolos region here. Not accurate to the books. In the books, he really doesn't control any region until he invades Westeros. Spoiler alert, I suppose. But that's where he starts in this mod. And of course, if you're familiar with the show, you're familiar with Daenerys starting over here in Slaver's Bay, or not starting, but this is where she builds her power before coming to Westeros. So we have the three cities of Astapor, Yunkai, and Meereen. She also kind of plays around with the Dothraki areas, so Hesh, Lazosh, Vaes Diaf, all these Vaes places, except for Vaes Dothrak, that's still controlled by the Dothraki in the mod. But anyway, so they kind of start over here, and they have their own unique style. I wanted to move on to this after Westeros, because even though it's different from the Westerosi style, it's more similar to the Westerosi style than it is the rest of Essos, which makes sense, given that the Targaryen exiles here in Essos spent a good long time in Westeros before, being here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start off with troops, as we typically like to do in these videos, and then we'll move on to full suits of armor. So let's just start with the troops. So starting out with the basic Valyrian recruit troop tree, we're not going to spend a ton of time on each one of these, but I'll show you them. That way you get an accurate idea of what the troops actually look like in the mod for this faction. So the basic Valyrian recruit looks super basic, doesn't have any special, new mod assets, all vanilla, but at least the hair makes sense. Moving on to the Valyrian levy, we start seeing some more mod-specific assets with the Valyrian soldier helmet, the Dragonstone gambeson, and the leather riding boots. At least it's Dragonstone, because that was originally a Valyrian place, so I can accept that lore-wise, even though it doesn't belong to the faction. Moving from there, we have two tier 3 units, basically our infantry troop tree and our archer. We'll start with the archers. The Valyrian bowman starts looking a bit more unique and custom. We have the leather coif, the Valyrian soldier armor, and the Valyrian boots. Then our tier 4 Valyrian archer has two quivers of arrows, the Valyrian soldier helmet, Valyrian soldier gorget, Valyrian soldier armor, and Valyrian boots, so all Valyrian stuff. And then our top tier Valyrian master archer at tier 5 has Valyrian soldier helmet, Valyrian soldier gorget, Valyrian soldier armor, and Valyrian soldier boots, and once again two quivers of bodkin arrows. So that is the archer troop tree. Moving down the soldier, you can see, like I said, pretty much the same type of stuff that we see in the tier 4 for the archer, which is typical for infantry in this mod. They're usually just a step above the archers for the heaviness of their armor. From there we can move down to 2, the infantry and the cavalry. We'll start with the cavalry since there's less. With the Valyrian scout, looks basically the same, added some throwing weapons, and we see the Valyrian soldier bracers make their first appearance. Then when we move to the Valyrian cavalry, which is the top for this troop tree in cavalry, we can see a whole different style of armor. It's a black plate armor with some very decorative pauldrons that don't quite offer the amount of protection that I would love, but it definitely looks pretty authentic for the world of the world of Ice and Fire. I almost said this world of Song of Ice and Fire. That wouldn't make any sense. Over into the infantry tree, Valyrian man-at-arms, looking a little bit heavier, and there we see the Valyrian soldier pauldrons, which add the little shoulder armor instead of just the gorget. Then we have two options for top tier, tier 5 for infantry, with the Valyrian elite pikeman, and then the Valyrian captain, and the main difference there just being the captain has a lance, the pikeman has a pike, so just a different polearm. Other than that, pretty much the same. So that is our basic Valyrian recruit troop tree. Then we have the Valyrian noble troop tree. So in here we have the Valyrian noble son, starting it off, again, very basic and vanilla, and then we move down two different troop trees, one specifically for the Targaryens, and the other one is generally for the Valyrians. So the way that I typically see this play out is this side is more often used by Aegon's faction, and this side is more often used by Daenerys' faction, but not exclusively. So we'll just go down the Valyrian side first with the Valyrian squire, then the Valyrian knight. We see the more unique Valyrian armor coming out with the Valyrian lord armor and the Valyrian helmet, then the Valyrian dragon knight, and finally the Valyrian dragon lord protector, which has two polearms, which always looks funny in my opinion, and a fairly comprehensive suit of that Valyrian style armor. Then on the Targaryen side, we have the Targaryen squire, which you can see looks better than the Valyrian squire because we actually have the Valyrian surcoat. Then we go to the House Targaryen knight, so we once again have that black plate armor. The House Targaryen Queen's Guard, so same stuff, but with a little bit more comprehensive shoulder armor. And then the captain of the Queen's Guard, which is the most comprehensive armor of them all. And that does it for troops. So now let's just move on to full suits of armor. And like always in these videos, I like to point out, You may find on any of these units things that do not belong to this faction. In these videos, I only include items that belong to this faction. So even if it doesn't look perfectly right, if there's only one glove option, I will use that glove for every single suit of armor because it belongs to this faction. There will be no borrowing. But the Valyrian faction actually does a pretty good job of having full suits. So let's just dive into those. Here we have the most basic one that we can find in this faction, and so I would just by default call it the Valyrian Soldier or Valyrian Recruit armor. This one's made up of the Valyrian Soldier helmet, the Valyrian Soldier gorget, Valyrian surcoat, the Valyrian Soldier bracers, and the Valyrian boots. So all very basic stuff, but honestly, it doesn't look bad. I'd say if every Valyrian recruit or whatever your basic levy unit in the game had this, it would look better than any of the other Westerosi recruit troop options, because that looks pretty dang good. You have just a surcoat. I would say that doesn't look thick enough to be considered a gambeson type armor, so yeah, you'd be lacking a bit in the chest area, but the rest of it is actually pretty decent armor. So yeah, that is our most basic one, the Valyrian recruit. Next, we would have the Valyrian Heavy Soldier or Valyrian Infantry, or whatever you want to call this one. It would be your slightly more elite rank and file man-at-arms, you know, before you get to any type of lord or knight type stuff. I really like this one. I think that the red brigandine style armor looks really cool, especially when you pair it with all these black and gold trimmed armor pieces, so I quite like this one. This one's made up of the Valyrian Soldier helmet, the Valyrian Soldier baldrons, Valyrian Soldier armor, Valyrian gloves with bracers, and the Valyrian boots. So, like I said, I quite like this one. I think it looks pretty dang cool, stands out amongst the other ones, and unlike something like the Westerlands, where they get immediately gaudy and flashy, this looks like a relatively normal suit of armor. It just looks like a really high quality and, well-designed one. So I quite like that, but that's the Valyrian infantry armor, I suppose. Next, we have one that I've had questions about on some of these previous videos, and this is the Targaryen Kingsguard armor. A lot of people will just call this the Arthur Dayne armor because, you know, he's the one that you see wearing it the most in the TV show, and it's the style of Kingsguard armor that was apparently used during the reign of the Mad King. So this one is pretty cool. I think I like it. I think it looks decent. Obviously, it suffers from the fact that it's just based on the stuff that was designed in the show, which at best is just a suit of half plate, because you can see we have a helmet, we don't have a gorget, we have some pauldrons and a cuirass. We don't have any gauntlets, no leg armor, no tassets, nothing like that. So it's just a padded gambeson and some plate. That being said, as far as it goes, I think half plate is aesthetically, you know, pretty cool looking. It gives you that kind of adventurous air while still offering decent protection to your most vital areas. So I understand why TV shows like to use suits of half plate and then, you know, pretend that it's something that a knight would wear into combat. But with that being said, this one's made up of the Targaryen Kingsguard helmet, the Targaryen Kingsguard pauldrons, Targaryen Kingsguard armor, Targaryen Kingsguard gloves, and the Targaryen Kingsguard boots. So it is a full set all named together, so I like that. And like I said, I think it looks pretty good, at least a hell of a lot better than the Robert Baratheon Kingsguard armor, which I've always, you know, really disliked. So that is our Targaryen Kingsguard armor. Next, we have the Valyrian plate armor, and again, looks pretty dang cool. It's obviously very unique, and it's got a lot going for it as far as, you know, just design elements that really help it fit into the theme, as well as somewhat accurate medieval armor. You can see it's got the Valyrian surcoat looking kind of dragon scale style surcoat underneath. We have some chainmail, then a lot of plate. The helmet is, of course, ridiculous and fanciful, but, you know, you wouldn't see it in combat in real life medieval history, but something of that style, of course, with a face shield would maybe be seen in a tournament. But it's pretty cool looking armor overall, and it definitely fits with the whole Dragonlord aesthetic. So this one's made up of the Valyrian helmet, the Valyrian pauldrons, Valyrian plate armor, Valyrian gauntlets, and Valyrian plate boots too. So it's all got that dark black plate aesthetic. So looks pretty dang cool. I don't have a lot of complaints about it. Obviously, it's a little bit edgelordy for me, but if you're playing as a Valyrian or Targaryen or whatever it may be, obviously you're kind of going for the edgelord aesthetic, you know, once you've gotten that far. So that's the Valyrian plate armor. Very similar to the Valyrian plate armor, we have the Targaryen plate armor. It's basically the same thing, just with swapped out, well, two assets I did here because I have one item that I've never seen in the mod before, so I don't know if it's supposed to be in the mod or whatever the case may be. But this one is made up of the Valyrian helmet, the Valyrian master pauldrons, which I don't know what makes them masterful. They look the same, and I think they had the same stats, but if not, it's close because they've got 18 for body armor and 12 for arm armor, which is a good set of shoulder armor in the game, but I don't think they look any different. The Targaryen plate armor, Valyrian gauntlets, and Valyrian plate boots too. So like I said, it's mostly the Targaryen plate armor, which just adds, of course, the Targaryen three-headed dragon sigil right there in the center, which makes it look cooler. So I'm not disparaging that aesthetic difference because it definitely does make make it stand out a little bit more and give it a little bit more character, so I like it for that. But yeah, same basic feeling about this that I had about the last one, because other than, you know, the little addition of a gold circle, it's the same suit of armor. Looks pretty cool, little edgelordy for me, but I don't have a lot to complain about for it. And of course, my personal favorite of the Valyrian armor, or yeah, probably, I would say this one's probably my favorite. It's either this one or the soldier armor, because I like both of them better than the edgelordy plate armors. This one is the Valyrian Lord armor, and I think you'd agree, it looks pretty dang cool. Definitely fits well with the show's aesthetics, without being something that, you know, you see a whole lot in them. It's made up of the Valyrian Lord helmet, which is basically the same as the Valyrian helmet, but instead of having just a flat crest on top, it's got a crest with, you know, our black and red feathers, which definitely fits the Dragon Lord aesthetic. Then the Valyrian Lord pauldrons, a nice comprehensive set of shoulder and arm armor. The Valyrian Lord armor, which is our plate cuirass here. Our Valyrian plate gloves, which just match the aesthetic well and are all grooved. And then the Valyrian plate boots, which are similar to the other ones, but instead of being black, they are silver. I like this one. Like I said, it looks really cool, and every time I've played as a Targaryen or Valyrian type person in this mod, I typically aim for a suit that looks basically just like this. Only thing that could set it over the top a little anymore is if we had some sort of a cape, because obviously once you've added a cape into your hero outfit, it just goes over the top into either the guy who's in charge of everything or of course the supervillain. But I think this one looks pretty cool. I don't have a lot of complaints. As far as historical accuracy goes, yeah, you know, it's missing some spots. Typically if we had big open armpits and stuff like that, we'd want to have some mail in those joints just to keep you safe, and there's not a whole lot of leg armor, but if you assume that these are fairly heavy and well armored, then I could say that this makes sense for a piece of cavalry armor, because typically your saddle would be covering most of this. At least the front armoring on your knight saddle would cover this area, and that would help you get on and off the horse and maintain your balance better. So if we assume that this is a suit of cavalry armor, then I have no problem with the fact that it's very heavily armored on top, but not so much on the bottom. Overall, really like it, and like I said, I believe it's my favorite of all of the Targaryen or Valyrian armor in this mod. But that's all for today. That does it for our Valyrian/Targaryen armor in Realm of Thrones. Honestly, like I said, pretty good stuff. It's not super variety intensive, but I don't think it needs to be. I think that the variety it has and the quality makes up for it. So, hope you enjoyed this video, but that's all for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.